All right, and good morning. So we made it back. We made it through. It's been almost, tomorrow would be 2 weeks since the last time we did a show. And I've got Cameron on with us. I know the Cheeseburger will be excited about this, so let's see how that plays out. But our boy Cameron, how you doing, brother?
Wyatt, I'm rolling.
I see Fish and Golf drew first blood this morning, followed shortly by His Majesty. Good morning. And, well, it's going to be a pretty... No, I don't want to just say it's going to be a pretty light show this morning. To be clear, here's where we're at. Obviously, Hurricane Helene tore through, and it was only a Category 1 hurricane by the time it got to me. But let's be clear about something. A Category 1 hurricane is still a hurricane.
Yeah, that's like saying I got hit by a small tornado.
Yeah, right. I live in Georgia. So, thing about Georgia. Remember the ice apocalypse followed immediately by Snowmageddon? Right?
I do.
Like, amusingly, Cameron, this is worth a chuckle. We have a minivan that was a nice new minivan with all the trims, all the goodies on it. We got that after my wife was in a rear end collision because of the snowpocalypse. So we've just survived Helene, and last night the van got totaled by a fucking buck. So we went out for tacos last night, and on the way home, a deer hit my wife. And I don't have it ready to show this morning, but I've got the dash cam footage from when the deer ran out and hit the van. And I'll be filing an insurance claim this morning because, I mean, hit it. Like, I've hit several deer with my pickup truck over the years. I drive a 24-year-old pickup truck. I've hit a few deer with it. Never even scratched the paint. My poor minivan, we are down a headlight. At a glance, the repair bill is a new headlight assembly, front left quarter panel, bumper, and hood, if I'm lucky. Sergeant Major asks if I need a loaner. I'll get back to you on that, Dad. We'll file the claim this morning. The van it's still drivable. It just, right now it's ugly and down a headlight. So, actually, no, the headlight is smashed to shit, but it still works. Anyway, when it rains, it pours. And speaking of which, here we are, you guys that watch the show often, I picked up and moved my family out to the middle of nowhere back in May. And
which has its advantages, but
its advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
So disadvantages, the storm hit us. Power went out. Obviously the internet went out. We actually got our internet back night before last. Yesterday morning, I was at my machine setting up to do a show. I was planning on basically doing the show that we're doing right now yesterday morning. And then the internet just cut off at like 7 o'clock in the morning and was off. It just wasn't there until probably about 1,600. But I definitely had a moment where I asked myself, God, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm cut off. After this disaster, there's trees down on the roads, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But we came through. Our house did not get hit. The house is fine. Obviously, the studio is fine. But I've got dozens of huge trees down all across my property. We've got the front yard cleared up, looking pretty good. Got a lot of cleanup work to do in the backyard. And then beyond the backyard, there's the forested part of the land, and that's where most of the damage happened. There was an enormous amount of water that came flooding through there and knocked shit down. So for the most part, the forested part of the back of my property is essentially inaccessible. We cut through one tree that's on the major walking path. That was a lot of work. Trish says firewood. I am about to have more firewood than I will ever be able to burn. So I might be one of those. I might end up being one of those rednecks with a sign by his driveway that says firewood, $5 a bundle. Unverified says, great to see you. It's great to see you too, Bear. Great to see you too. But I say all that to say, I had a moment. I did. I had a moment where I asked myself, did I make a mistake moving my family out to the middle of nowhere? Did I put us at greater risk? And then you know what happened? Conyers caught on fire. Right? So for those of you who don't know, we moved to the middle of nowhere from Conyers, Georgia. Right? And so just 2 days after Helene blew through and tore down all our trees and made me throw away $300 or $400 worth of groceries, Conyers caught on fire. The biolab facility in Conyers, Georgia, went up in flames and blanketed the community in toxic chemicals.
It smelled like a swimming pool. It was fine.
Yeah, no problem.
All fine.
And see, when I say blanketed the community in toxic chemicals, this isn't one of those. This is not hyperbole. Where there's a funny smell in the air, and I think this might. I wonder if there's a carcinogenic. No. This wasn't. I wonder if this was the government came immediately and said, "Y'all pack your shit and leave. Go away. It's not safe to be in this city." And I thought to myself, I may have chosen well. I am suddenly very, very confident in my decision to move. Bear mentions the color of the smoke. Sorry to cut you off. Bear mentions the color of the smoke was crazy, and I know Bear's watching from the UK, and so just seeing images on the internet, and I'm staying the hell away from it. So me too. I've only been seeing images on the internet, but I've seen the photos and the video. Our friend Alex McDonald flew a drone over it, I think, Anyway, the images of the smoke cloud from there, you're seeing these reds and yellows and purples. I didn't see any bright green smoke in there, but I'm a little surprised that I haven't seen more on like X or wherever of some autist from 4chan going through and saying, oh yeah, this exact hue of purple indicates this particular chemical that has these side effects and exposure. I haven't seen anybody do that yet, but I keep hoping. I don't know the chemistry well enough to do that myself. So, sorry, I think I stepped on your toes a little bit there, Cameron, but I wanted to tag the thing about the color of the smoke.
So, I did see the smoke cloud, like live, and where I run a delivery route most days. It just so happens that I don't have to run it this morning, so don't get too used to seeing me, guys. Sorry. However, my delivery route is several miles away from the biolab accident, and even there, I could still smell the chemicals in the air. Like at one point in time, the plume was large enough to where it was threatening several counties in the metro Atlanta area. Now, according to the EPA, and trust the government as much as you will for whatever reasons you will,
Trust the government as much as you can afford to.
But according to the EPA, now, we were looking at a peak of somewhere around 50 parts per million, and that kind of gas starts to get dangerous at 400 parts per million. So it wasn't even close to being in concentrations that were truly dangerous. But I don't know, like this is the same government that said masks don't work, masks do work, masks don't work, masks do work,
And then they said masks don't work, so you should wear 7.
Right. So take it for what it's worth. Though I suspect, you mentioned the autists. I suspect that there are a bunch of autists that actually work for the EPA. And if they're going to lie about the parts per million that they're measuring, that's... I might be willing to give that slightly more weight. Is
right.
That what morning, folks. New guru. That's a nice. So
real quick, Cameron, Nude Guru is one that started watching the show back when Alex freaking Jones was more active. I know that he's a busy boy and works late nights, so we don't see him live most times in the mornings, but I know he still watches and I still hear from him from time to time. But Nude Guru started following us back then. So hey Nude, it's good to see you back. Appreciate you tuning in this morning.
All right, so well, you set the table quite well with the hurricanes and all that, and I suspect that's why Mario is not with us this morning, because he is in the path.
I'm a little concerned because I actually tried to call him and say, wake your ass up, but I tried to call him twice. I got no answer. I am definitely going to try to call him again after the show just to check on him, because usually I'd at least get him shit posting in the infamous thread.
Real quick. Hey, Danny, it's good to see you too. All right. So, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Please do.
Let's have the discussion. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Is the government controlling the weather?
Okay. Well, let's take a moment and look at Hurricane Milton. Let's see. I've got the AP News live updates on Milton here.
Okay, while you do that, I'm gonna look. To be clear, I'll just go ahead and give you the bottom line up front. No, I don't think the government is controlling the weather. Okay, I really don't. There's a whole bunch of reasons that I think that, not the least of which is the amount of energy that would be required to do such a thing. And the unpredictable nature of the weather. Like, your local weatherman literally has trouble predicting the weather from day to day. It's why they say there's an 80% chance of rain instead of 100% chance of rain, because they can't guarantee that, despite the fact that they watch these models all the time, they can't 100% guarantee that there will be rain unless there is a cloud on top of you raining. So there's a lot that would go into it. However, and I must make this point, I'm not 100% sure I'm correct on that, because, well, I mean, look, see my previous statement about the government lying to us about COVID protocols, and oh yeah, like Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. So do I think that they're controlling the weather? No. But do I think that we should mock people that are concerned that, oh my God, they're controlling the weather? Well, No, like they are afraid that this is real because they have been so abused by their government. They've been so gaslit by their government. They spent the last 4 years being told that Joe Biden was not in severe cognitive decline. And now they're being told that Kamala Harris is sober and competent to do the job. So is it really that big of a stretch to think, yeah, sure, they threw a hurricane at a dumbass red state so that they could maybe swing the election? Is it really that big of a stretch? And that's where I'm at. So please, Chris, go.
Okay, so couple things real quick. We're obviously right here. We're looking at the forecasted path of Hurricane Milton, which is an alarming hurricane in a lot of ways. But you mentioned that the weatherman can't ever get the weather report right, and how well they say it's an 80% or a 60%. So this is actually something that I learned maybe a year ago that I found interesting, and it changed the way that I understand weather reports. That percentage is not the chance that it will rain. When you see a forecast and it says 20% chance or 80% chance of rain, what that actually means is that there is a 100% chance that it will rain in a certain area, and that rain will cover this percentage of that area. So basically, you could point at a map and say, okay, in this circle there will be rain, and it will cover some portion of the circle, but it's difficult to say exactly the where the rain is falling. So yeah, Bear says it more succinctly than I did. It's raining in 60% of the area, not there is a 60% chance that it will rain. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand. I know I didn't. Until I understood that. I always thought that if the weatherman says that there's a 60% chance of rain, that it was a probability that it will rain, but it's not.
Well,
A
there's a
60% chance
60%.
of rain is a 100% chance of rain in 60% of an uncertain location.
Well, there's a 60% chance that it will rain on you. Is probably a nice self-centered way to put it. Like so, and I
I
see
mean,
the
hey, I've got my own gravity field. I'm totally comfortable with self-centered.
um. Wow, that's you're gonna get roasted in the chat for that later.
Bring it
Um,
on. I love fat jokes.
it's a good thing. Oh, and look, I see the comments about patents and cloud seeding. Look, guys, I could draw up a patent for an anti-gravity device, and I would have it patented. It wouldn't even have to work. I just have the patent.
Correct.
So the fact that there's patents on these things, while that's important and it's worth noting, that doesn't mean that any of them work. Now, I understand that cloud seeding works, and that's real technology. You make clouds heavier so they rain. Like that's the basic idea behind cloud seeding. But when you're talking about aiming a hurricane at something, the amount of energy required to do that is just like that's a tall order, guys. And look, to be clear, I'm not saying that it's impossible. A few years ago, I would have said it's impossible, but I still don't think it's very likely. Like there's a lot of math that
I
goes
think
into.
I think Joe Rogan may have said it best in his most recent Netflix special, where he said, "Guys, I was a pretty normal, average dude, just kind of doing what I do, and I didn't have a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. I didn't listen to those crazies and kooks, and then everybody fucked with me about the horse paste thing, and now I don't think we landed on the moon." Now, to be clear, I'm quoting Joe Rogan there. I'm not a moon landing skeptic, as it were, but I I've seen people have their moment where they said, "What now? You want me to believe what now?"
No, I
right?
remember. I remember walking into your basement at the old house in Conyers, and you were like, "Hey, Cameron, Jeffrey Epstein's dead," and I was like, "Shut the fuck up!" And, and you were like, "No,
No,
I'm not
no.
kidding."
We were in my pickup truck. We were driving to your mother-in-law's house to shoot the chase scene in the woods for
Was that long ago?
it was. We were in my truck. We were listening to AM 750, and we heard the news there, and then the infamous thread lit up with Epstein's dead, and we and we had that moment, and I saw your whole worldview. Like, I didn't know that you could physically see a paradigm shift in a motherfucker's eyes. It was just like, I just saw Cameron go. "Ooh."
Yeah, my personal Overton window it didn't move, it got shattered. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, okay. And then as more information came out, like, oh, the guards were asleep and the cameras didn't work. And it's like, come on, man, this is a bad James Bond movie. This is the rough draft for a spy thriller.
right.
No,
Well, it's the vampires conversation all over again. You look at something and you say, okay, if you don't put a sniper cover on the water tower or on the one obvious flat surface, and you don't use drones for overhead watch, and you don't match comms with local security forces, how many points of failure do we have to accept as coincidence before we start asking ourselves a question? You're like, I've seen this dude bite 30 people. They all fell down dead and then got up and tried to bite me. At what point do I accept that something I could not previously believe was reality has become undeniably fact?
well, and that's fair. And what Chris is referring to is he and I have kind of an ongoing litmus test for how you believe a thing, and it goes like this: we know vampires are not real, so how much evidence of vampires would you have to see to start believing that vampires may in fact be real? Um,
And
so
actually,
that's
zombies, the zombie thing may be the better one to discuss, as far as the litmus test for that concept, because you can go back, what, 10, 12, 15 years or something, with the bath salts incidents in Florida. There were several incidents in Florida where people apparently on bath salts went into hallucinogenic, psychotic, murderous rages and just started biting people, right? So when you see a zombie movie, it, most of the best zombie movies at the beginning, they don't understand what they're seeing. They don't believe what they're seeing. In a lot of I'm a big fan of the zombie apocalypse genre. I read comic books, novels, etc. And often one of the tropes is somebody insists that we refuse to call them zombies. So, well, they're not like zombies like you see in the movie. They're different somehow. No, they're zombies. You shoot them in the face. But in reality, how many people do you have to see eaten by other people before you start asking the question, do I even care if that's a zombie by definition?
well, that's your good old Bertrand Russell. That you got your technical definition of the word, and you've got your emotional definition of the word, and the emotional definition, it tends to be the one that's more important in the way human beings communicate. I do think that there's another reason, and this is a good reason to discount the government is controlling the weather and deliberately targeting red states. And it's a two-pronged thing. One, the response. There we I would say we don't even know yet how bad the devastation in Western North Carolina is, because entire towns were just washed away. And that is some serious shit. And I think at this point, anything that distracts from the recovery effort is a mistake. It's just not the place to put your energy. The second is we kind of have this whole election that's going to happen in 20 something days where they tell us that Trump and Kamala are tied. And I just don't know that I believe that, like, at all. But that is another thing we don't need to be distracted from. Don't give the other side ammunition to call us crazy, because they are, in fact, the crazy ones. They did just spend 4 years telling us Joe Biden is fine, and they're now currently telling us that Kamala Harris is sober and competent. Like, don't go off on the and I'll even say it, heaven forbid, but don't go off on some the Jewish cabal that runs the government is actually throwing hurricanes at red states because they need to get buck broken and fall in line. Like, don't make that mistake. Don't do it.
As far as the weather control thing goes, I think, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying something to this effect. Yes, we know that cloud seeding is a real thing, but the idea that the storm can be steered, right? That is what beggars belief.
That's the thing that would require so much energy.
That said, however, because cloud seeding is a thing, it is possible. And now this, I'm not saying I believe this is what happened. I'm saying that if I'm being as generous as I can be to the conspiracy theorist on this one, the lefties want chaos. They want damage, right? We've talked about this in great detail before, but it really is the case that at their core, the left is so psychotically hateful and violent that the politicians, the Democrat politicians, will go out of their way to vote against a bill that is something that they want, right? You could hand them unlimited government-funded abortion on a silver platter. And unless you can point to where that bill explicitly causes harm to people, apart from the obvious infanticide, unless you can point to where that bill explicitly takes money out of an American's pocket or disables an American community or just in some way causes harm to either a Republican politician or American citizens generally, if you cannot show the harm that will be caused by the bill, a Democrat will not vote for it. They are pro-hurt you. It's because they've cultivated this mentality. They've cultivated this brand of being for the poor, right? So poor people should vote Democrat. And if getting poor people to vote Democrat is what gets Democrats elected, then the obvious best interest of the Democrat Party is to create as many poor people as possible. So to the extent that weather can be controlled, we know that cloud seeding is a thing. A storm breaking loose and getting to the level that Milton is, and let's be clear, when I say getting to the level that Milton is, the meteorologists on this are saying Milton is at the mathematical maximum possible strength of a hurricane for this area. Like, we don't have a category 6 for hurricanes because it's mathematically, as far as we've known up to now, impossible for a hurricane to get stronger than what Milton is. And there are some arguments that Milton is stronger than what the mathematical models say is possible for a hurricane. That said, the question of steerage is essentially meaningless, because if you can get the hurricane to that level of strength, and again, I'm trying to make the generous and take the generous interpretation for the conspiracy guys. all the Democrat Party needs is for the storm to be horrific. It doesn't matter where that happens, because coming from Mexico up through the Gulf, it either hits Florida, a bright red state, Texas, a somewhat less red state, or it hits somewhere like Mississippi or New Orleans, right? And as we've seen in the past, as the government has made very clear to us, they're happy to dump piles and piles of money into a community that is likely to vote Democrat. Right? If your neighborhood is likely to vote Democrat and gets wiped out by a storm, you will get all the money. Speaking of money, Kamala's getting a lot of flack right now because she just announced what was it, 130, 140 million to, was it Lebanon? Yeah. In the immediate aftermath of Helene victims being told we're going to give you $750, and Alejandro Mayorkas coming out and saying FEMA's running out of money, and we get all this pushback, right? And I might do a separate video on this, because I think they're missing an important point. Your Tim Pools, your Ben Shapiro's, your Steven Crowder's, they're pointing out, look, nobody cares what the allocation was, because the government, the president, emergency has the authority to reallocate the funds that were set aside for the immigrants and this and that. And you've got these people come back saying, "Oh, it's a lie. They're lying about the money going to illegals and this and that." Okay. On the left, the criticism of the complaint is that you're telling me there's not enough money for hurricane victims in America, when you've been spending millions and billions on Ukraine, on Israel, on Lebanon, on criminal aliens, hostile foreign invaders. You've been spending millions of dollars on moving criminals, right? And I don't mean criminal aliens as in these people are criminals now because they broke our laws by moving into our country. No. They've been taken out of the freaking asylums and prisons in foreign countries and flown here on U.S. taxpayer dollars. You've got that, right? On the right, the complaint is that you've spent all this money on all these things, and then the left rebuts by saying, no. That money was allocated ahead of time before the storm happened. And you've got these two ideas bumping back and forth. Let me clarify something, guys. We did not have the money to send to Ukraine. When I say we didn't have it, I don't mean like I've only got $1,200 in the checking account until payday, so it would be irresponsible for me to go spend $500 on dinner tonight. No. I mean, the money didn't exist at all, and so we took out a new credit card, as in the government went and said, we want to give these billions of dollars to Ukraine, these billions to Israel, et cetera, but that money doesn't exist because we're spending more than a third of our total tax revenue on servicing the interest on the debt that we already have. And so what they did is they just printed more money. So let's be very clear. It's not that they deprioritized you and you fell outside of the budget. It's that there are specific places they want money to go, and you aren't it. American citizens are not important enough to the American government that they're willing to print that money and risk causing inflation to help you when you have been utterly devastated by this storm. But they're more than happy to print that money out of thin air, devalue your savings, devalue your buying power, to tax you additionally on top of the money that they already steal from you at gunpoint. They're more than happy to print money like that if they can guarantee that it's going to go into the hands of someone who will launder it through defense contracts back into the Democrat Party. The reason that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the current Democrat-controlled government don't want to give you disaster relief money is because you are not an efficient money laundering operator that will put that money back in their pockets. They're scared to death you're going to go spend that money on things that you consume, like fucking water.
Yeah. So Bearing, not Bearing, God, that'd be cool if Bearing watched our show. No, Unverified Bear.
Oh no,
said,
Unverified Bear is Bearing.
Yeah, sure.
Love you, Bear.
Unverified Bear said, I don't have to build the staircase to push you down it. And I appreciate I appreciate the point that you're making there, and I see other comments in the chat. Like, look, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, and I'm not saying that it's impossible. But at some point, you have to say to yourself, self, I don't believe these people can accurately predict their climate models so they can tax me on my carbon emissions. But I do believe they can steer a fucking hurricane. And those two things have a hard time fitting together. Like they just do. And I can't stress this enough. The amount of energy required to steer a hurricane would be, I mean, we're talking like atomic bomb levels of energy. And granted, we have atomic bombs. Touche.
But we're told by the most smartest people that we can't nuke hurricanes, and that Donald Trump was stupid to even ask the question. And to your point, I'll bring up Waller's comment again. To your point about the amount of energy, just look at the numbers there. The cargo space of a C-17 is approximately 12,500 cubic feet. The area of this hurricane is 43.8 trillion cubic feet. Guys, those are numbers that I suspect your minds cannot even reasonably process. To look at those numbers, that's very abstract. The numbers abstract to an extraordinary degree. Like at 12,500 square feet. Most of your homes
Cubic feet
can be loaded into a C-17 cargo, right? With room to move, right? I'm not saying break it down and all the, no. If you could pick up the house and put it on a tractor trailer, you could drive it into the back of a C-17, right? And then that second number, 43.8 trillion cubic feet, the area of the hurricane. Cameron, we talked about this the other day, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like if you could make $1 a second, it would take you 7 days to make $1 million, 6 months to make $1 billion, and like 32,000 years to make $1 trillion. Right? Just to kind of, it's very difficult conceptually to put numbers at that high a level of abstraction into a perspective where you can work with them intelligently.
Isn't Hertz a moving company? That's given the chat that's rolled by. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, look, we're talking about like a bucket of sand on Panama City Beach.
Yeah.
Like we're just to give you some kind of a comparison. And I'll quit hammering this, but I just want to be clear. I'm not saying it's impossible. A few years ago, I'd have said it was impossible. I would have.
Right.
I'm not saying that now. I'm just saying that, when I start to go through like the math, like, and I'm good at math, but when I start to go through the math, I get lost. The amount of energy that would be required is staggering. So it's
Yeah, I have a hard time with that math too because the way I was raised, I've always believed that pi are round, and frankly, I prefer them that way because they don't cut into even pieces if you try to box them out. But you do get those lovely corners. That's for brownies though. Pi are round; they're supposed to be.
Look, if you like the corner pieces on brownies, you can have them. I'm a centerpiece man all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
All day. All day. Maybe with a scoop of vanilla ice cream and some homemade brown sugar salted caramel drizzled on top.
Waller says, "Bruh, HARP isn't the key, and it's downright offensive to anyone who understands radio theory that HARP would be capable." Yes. Oh my God, yes. I'm not going to go into the master level on radio waves and control because that's a dangerous topic, but whoo, yeah. Well, I had not planned for the show to go this direction, and I certainly hadn't planned on us to spend this much time on it.
That's my fault. I did it on purpose.
Nope, you're good. You're good. I made the mistake of saying we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. So, let's take. I wish I could get. It won't let me. Maybe I can do this. No.
Cuba. What?
Oh, damn it! You piece of crap. I want to get a better look at that map. So I was trying to have Mario come on this morning to talk about what's going on there. What if anything he's seeing that's worth discussing. But frankly, this shit is alarming. I'm trying to find one that's more recent. I guess I'll go with past day. So, okay, this looks like it's about the most recent and intelligible image I can find of the current predictions. It's scary, guys. But our boy Mario is over here somewhere, over on the right-hand side of Florida. I'm not going to point to his exact location, but he's basically over on the safer of the two beaches. Who was it? The mayor in Tampa said that if you choose not to evacuate, you are going to die. Damn, son. That's
I get what he's trying to do. I get what he's trying to do, but I think that's actually irresponsible. Like we've seen government officials try that kind of thing before. Like, oh, if you don't get the vaccine, grandma will die. I didn't get the vaccine. My grandma ain't dead. Like, so if you tell people, especially Floridians, we've got a mutual friend of the show, Dave Bowen. We've got a mutual friend of the show, Dave Bowen. All right, if it circles back and hits North and South Carolina, I'll come on here and eat a bunch of crow. Like if it pulls the Jen Psaki, but we got a mutual friend, Dave Bowen, who said he's lived in Florida for 21 years, and of the 21 years, he's been through 17 hurricanes, and this one coming up will make number 18. You tell a guy like Dave that, hey, if you don't leave, you're gonna die. Dave's gonna go screw you. I've already been through like 17 hurricanes. I'm not gonna die. Might lose power for a couple of days, but I'm not gonna die. And we actually make the problem worse because it's Well, it's the little boy who cried wolf. There's two lessons in the little boy who cried wolf. It's not just that lying is bad and it destroys your credibility. It's also that kind of exaggeration makes it more difficult to recognize when there's a legitimate threat. Let's not forget, at the end of the little boy who cried wolf, there was actually a wolf killing the sheep. Well,
Yes.
you know, back in the day, if your town's flock of sheep got slaughtered by wolves, y'all might freeze to death that winter because you were counting on that wool to make new clothes, so you didn't freeze to death. So
You might have been counting on that mutton to make stews.
well, yes, but I was just going for the obvious one. So saying things like this is dangerous. You know, like you could just say the truth, which is this storm is so powerful, it's literally maxing out the charts, and you need to go. And you're all a bunch of Florida men, so you probably aren't going to go. So you could do that, but no, don't say, "Oh, you're going to die," because the people that
Maybe
do
this
believe
will
it
help.
will panic. What is that?
That's Kamala with a weather control wand riding the hurricane into Florida.
Now, if Kamala was in control of
There's
anything, it'd be a
Florida.
wine bottle.
Have you seen the Saturday Night Live clip where they're making fun of Kamala and Tim Wall? Do what?
Joe Biden.
No, Biden's not in there. It's just Kamala and Walls.
He is in there. Dana Carvey has come back and is playing Joe Biden.
I think we're talking about two different clips. The one I'm talking about, she's sitting on the couch doing an interview with somebody, getting ready to watch the VP debate, and you know it's what Maya Rudolph playing her, and she's filling up a glass of wine, and she's clearly inebriated, and she says she's nervous about how the VP debate's going to go, and then the interviewer's like, well, no, it's not going to be that bad. He's not going to say anything too crazy, and then they cut to Tim Walz. It's, I've become friends with school shooters. It's like, damn. I mean, SNL, they must be getting desperate because to turn and bite the hand that feeds you. It's bold, Cotton. Bold move.
Okay. Honestly, all right. Let's just veer right off. Honestly, here's what I think's going on. I said at the beginning that I don't believe the whole Trump and Kamala are tied thing. They've actually resurrected the Russia hoax. Have you heard this?
Yes. They're sending vaccine because Donald Trump stole a bunch of vaccines from American citizens and sent them to Putin.
It was the tests.
It's the testing kits. But you know where that's going to go. That's immediately going to be Americans were denied vaccines because Russia.
Yes, and apparently the Kremlin has been trying to groom Donald Trump as like a Manchurian candidate for like decades, and I think all this stuff is coming back because they know they're in trouble, because they know that the second you take Kamala off of her teleprompter, she collapses. Hell, if her teleprompter stutters, Kamala also stutters along with her teleprompter. And if it's at the point
which is very keeping with the Biden tradition.
And I think it says a lot that for years we said, hey, Joe Biden has some level of dementia. The only thing that's in question is how bad is it?
Right.
Well, it took years for that to get acknowledged. Well, ever since Kamala came to the fore, guys like us have been saying, dude, is she drunk? Like, is she taking like Xanax? Like the way her words slur together, like anybody that's ever been to a party, and that laugh where she just kind of gets out of control and cackles. I won't imitate it because
she has the affectation where she always talks in this vocal fry and lacks the capacity for basic syllabic termination.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She
We
gets
can,
she frequently gets to the end of a sentence and just doesn't finish it. And I don't mean she leaves off the last couple. She just leaves off the last syllable. She can't finish a word.
it came from a middle class family.
Came from a middle class family.
Yeah. I think now that the whole Kamala might be an alcoholic thing, the fact that that's penetrating the public consciousness so much quicker, and you couple that with the fact that they're trying to resurrect the Russia thing, like they're desperate. Like they're looking at their internal polling and they're saying, "Holy shit, we should have chose Josh Shapiro because we might lose Pennsylvania, and if Trump wins Pennsylvania, that's a wrap." Like I'm even seeing things on Twitter where people are laying the groundwork now, talking about, the Electoral College is bullshit. Why should a rural red voters vote count 39% more than a blue urban voter? And like that's what I think is going on there. Like tied my ass. They're tied. Like,
Well, and the betting markets, the betting markets are showing them not tied, but very close. Now that has changed pretty substantially. There's been like a 7 or 8 point swing in many of the betting markets over the last couple of days since her disastrous interviews. But let me say this about the betting markets. There's a good argument to be made that the betting markets are a better
metric.
They're a better metric of of what the people believe than are the polls. Because with the betting markets, people are saying, I believe this strongly enough to put my money where my mouth is. And in the betting markets, in all fairness, they are showing that the general sentiment is that they're pretty close, right? Just a little bit, in a lot of places, only 2 points difference between Trump and Kamala. And in most of them, Trump has a slight edge. But let's be clear. I don't think people are betting on Kamala in the markets because they believe that she's winning this campaign. I suspect that people are betting on Kamala because they believe that she is 100% guaranteed to win, because no reasonable, intelligent person believes that we had a legitimate election to get Joe Biden into office. And so I think what those betting markets are reflecting is that Americans believe that the Democrats stole 2020, they stole 2022, and they're going to try and steal 2024 again. Now, that said, I put forward the Pascal's electoral argument, right? So Pascal's wager is an argument for the existence of God, where he argues that, okay, you basically got 4 possibilities. You can believe in God or not believe in God, and you might be right or you might be wrong. If you believe in God and you're right, you go to heaven. If you believe in God and you're wrong,
you lose nothing.
Nothing happens. Now, in fairness, this argument assumes that there's only 2 options. You believe in God or you're an atheist, and that's a little bit of nuance. But the other side of it is you don't believe in God and you're wrong. There's no benefit, right? If you don't believe in God and you're wrong, you get nothing out of that. So it's a bad bet. If you don't believe in God and you're right, there's still no effect. So there's only a positive or negative outcome if you believe in God. I'm sorry. If you don't believe in God and you're wrong, you go to hell. So believing in God, there's upside and no downside. Not believing in God, there's downside and no upside. The election is the same thing. It is either the case that we still have elections, that elections still work in this country, or it is not the case. Now, if it is not the case that we still have legitimate elections in this country, and you believe that, and as a result of that, you choose not to vote, then you cannot win. If we collectively decide the elections are bullshit, it's been stolen, it can't be unstolen, our vote doesn't matter. Well, if you don't show up and vote, then you cannot win.
Yeah, it's how Georgia ended up with 2 blue senators.
Exactly. That is exactly how Georgia ended up with 2 blue senators. Is those grifters, Lynn Wood and what's her face, the Kraken bitch, told Georgia conservatives they stole the election. Your vote doesn't count. You should protest that by refusing to vote. Wait, what? So if you choose not to vote, you cannot win, but you can lose. If you choose to vote, you can win if there are legitimate elections. You can win if you choose to vote. But if you choose not to vote, you cannot win. So it's Pascal's wager all over again. Vote. There is a possible good outcome. Don't vote. There is not a possible good outcome. It's that simple.
Yes. Yeah, it's so simple. It only took you like 5 minutes to explain it. So that's pretty good. Boy, that joke fell flat. Okay.
Yeah, it did.
My bad. I just derailed the entire show.
In fairness, that explanation is much simpler when you have the chart with the 4 quadrants that explain option A, B, C, and D.
Right. Well, take a state like Georgia. In 2018, Brian Kemp beat Stacey Abrams by about 50,000 votes. In 2022, Brian Kemp beat Stacey Abrams by about 250,000 votes. So to say that it doesn't make a difference, it's exactly as you say. You're giving up. Like you can't win if you don't try. I've met many hunters that say something to the effect of, "You're never going to kill a deer sitting on your couch drinking coffee." You know, the old you miss 100% of the shots you don't take argument.
Joke's on you. I can put a couch on my back porch. I don't have to get up to shoot a deer.
Okay, so where's my venison, buddy? Like I'm just saying.
Come get it. We're not in season yet. I actually don't have any venison left in the freezer right now. I know it's bow season. I don't have a bow right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure rifle season starts this Saturday. Like,
I think you're right.
Like no excuses, and I'm like seriously, no excuses. I've seen deer get taken down with 2.23 rounds. Like it's their heart just kind of disintegrates. Like you could do this. It wouldn't be hard. Okay, so is there anything else? Like we're an hour solid here, so.
Yeah, and I'm running out of hot coffee, by which I mean I'm out of coffee.
Yeah, I'm also low on coffee.
Diacetyl. So, yeah, let's go ahead and put a button in it there. Waller says I've got a bow and a rifle. Hey, brother, come get some. I got plenty of woods back here. Come harvest. Say when, and I'll text you an address. And no shit. Anyway.
I miss my bow. It was one of the casualties of divorce.
What kind of a bitch steals the ice cube trays out of the freezer?
Baba.
Oh, man, I have to go watch True Lies now. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this morning. We love you. And believe it or not, no promises, but I have a good feeling about this. We'll see you tomorrow.